Was right?
Well, I said when Kevin Durant left the Warriors, Steve Kerr, Steph Curry for the Nets, it was a massive, massive mistake. Kyrie's not physically dependable or emotionally reliable. And in 3 years, there's now 2 first-round exits. One could be a sweep and a second-round exit. I called it. I said it with absolute conviction. This was going to detour a great basketball player's career, and it done just that for KD.
Where Colin was wrong.
But I thought the Nets were going to beat the Celtics in 7 games because when you go into a series and have the 2 best closers, you usually win. And I also thought the Celtics defense was suffocating in the regular season. But come on, that's the regular season. They just play harder than everybody else. Yeah, I was wrong. Tatum's outplayed KD, and the defense has been absolutely next-level spectacular. And Boston right now is the only team, I don't know, can they shut down Giannis? Maybe so, but I undersold the Celtics.
Where Colin was right?
When Kyler Murray got drafted, and for the last several years, as much as I love his talent, and I would sign him if I was Arizona, I said he's going to be a holdout guy. He's going to have some turbulence. He's going to be a handful. His dad is a major presence. He's got some baseball love. And I said his size would be a factor at some point. Well, it is. Because the reason he wants the money early is the injuries. Kid's not dumb. He sees the future of quarterbacks who move around a lot. They get hit. So with Kyler Murray, I can like you, but we called it on this one. It was going to be noisy, and it has been.
Where Colin was wrong.
I thought when Chris Middleton left for the Bucks, they would beat Chicago, but I thought the games would be really competitive. You take away Milwaukee's second-best shot maker. Yeah, I was wrong. They've won by 30 and 24, and Giannis has totally taken over. Listen, we got to be honest now. Giannis the best player in the league. I'm not saying he has to be the MVP. That's a separate argument. But in terms of offensive, defensive, distribution, coachability, Giannis has moved into that kind of LeBron in his prime stage where he's just so versatile. He can beat you on both ends. He can beat you everywhere. Facilitating, scoring, defending. He is now the best player in the league.
Where Colin was right?
When Ben Simmons got swapped to the Nets, I said the Sixers have just fleeced the Brooklyn Nets. I don't think Ben Simmons likes basketball. In fact, I went back the day the trade was made. I went back to the college scouting report on Ben Simmons, and they said he's indifferent. He doesn't like to compete. And I said, I can coach up a lot of flaws in sports. Indifference is the one I can't. You can complain all you want about James Harden. I know he loves hooping. Listen, Kyrie loves hooping, and he drives me crazy. I just don't think Ben Simmons, no player, hadn't played in a year, and he's still not healthy. Is he practicing? Story today, the Nets, quote, are totally exasperated with the Ben Simmons situation.
Where Colin was wrong.
When the Lakers traded Brandon Ingram for AD, I said at the time, Ingram's, I don't think he's a 1. I think he's a 2, maybe a 3. Slam dunk win for the Lakers. I'm not sure. Brandon Ingram's average in last 3 games almost 34 points. His efficiency's through the roof. He's loved as always a great teammate. But I never saw him as a dominant 1 that could take over a playoff series. I thought he'd be a great 2. I thought in a championship team there was an argument to be made. He was a 3. Yeah, well, not in this series. Without Zion, he has been a dominant go-to scorer, putting the ball in the deck. You can see here, he can drive, he can pull up, fall away, dunk over you, and good for him. Guy has worked really, really hard.
Where Colin was wrong.
A couple of weeks ago, am I wrong? Yeah, I thought Chris Paul was the leader of the Phoenix Suns, right? Like, Devin Booker's injury wouldn't be great, but they'd be okay. Well, not really. Devin Booker's 27 points a game have disappeared, and Phoenix is in a dogfight. Listen, Chris Paul, because of his age, what is he, 37? He's not going to give you an A-plus performance every night. Devin Booker's easy points are sorely missed. Listen, there are not a lot of guys in this league that score 27. And Devin gets you a lot of easy buckets that you don't have to scheme for and screen for, and they sorely miss him.
Where Colin was right?
A couple of weeks ago, I threw out a possibility. I said if I was the Lakers, I would trade AD to the Warriors for Klay Thompson. Why? Because the emergence of Jordan Poole. and you guys said I was crazy. Jordan Poole's now like an all-star. Jordan Poole in the playoffs is averaging 24 points, 50% on threes, over 50% from the floor, and he's the league's best free throw shooter. And he's an aggressive, attack-the-basket player. Listen, he's not going to be the next Steph because there'll never be another Steph. But he's every bit the athlete Klay Thompson is. He's going to be healthier long-term than Steph is. If you're looking for size and the Wiseman deal doesn't work, there are crazier things than moving Klay for Anthony Davis. That's all I'm saying.
Where Colin was right?
Well, in 4.5 months, USC football literally looks and feels different. Biggest spring game crowd I remember at USC. This is not the Sticks. They don't get 80,000 for a spring game. Caleb Williams, I texted multiple NFL execs this weekend. They all came up with the same answer. Caleb Williams would be the number 1 pick in the draft this year. Not the biggest quarterback, easy thrower, accurate, home run talent in space. Literally no penalties for the first 15 minutes of this thing. They were a disorganized mess for the last 7 years with Clay Helton. The transfer portal has changed everything. You don't have to recruit a high schooler and hope in 2 years he can play. You bring in college guys that are already performing at a high level. They've already brought in 13 transfers. 9 will start. And I'm told they've got 3 other silent commits they'll announce within the next week.
Where Colin was right?
Finally, we always say, be aggressive in sports. Worry about the mistakes later. The 2 biggest spenders in baseball were the Dodgers and the Mets. They have the 2 best records in baseball. The Mets went out and got Max Scherzer and others. Dodgers went out and got Freddie Freeman from the Braves and others. 2 best records in baseball. The A's sold pieces. They're getting 2,500 people to games. The Reds sold off pieces. 3-13. Worst team in baseball. Spend the money. There are no perfect players and there are no perfect contracts. But baseball continues to reward the analytically driven and the hyper-aggressive. Way to go, Mets, and way to go, Dodgers. Colin right, Colin wrong. All right, let's bring in our buddy. Okay, so the draft, there may not be a lot of stars. Aiden Hutchinson probably goes number 1, Michigan guy. But nonetheless, there's Debo talk, there's Kyler Murray stuff. Can you imagine? The NBA has always been a trade league, and that was always kind of part of the fun. Like NFL, free agency, trade talk. It's nuts.
We had the craziest March ever this year because of that.
Kevin Clark, The Ringer, Slow News Day video cast. It's like $50 million a year. Or you trade him. I would choose B. Now, I've said from the very beginning, his personnel, I don't think KD and Kyrie fit like everybody does. I don't. They're both, Kyrie is not really a facilitator. He's a closer. Well, there's an argument to be made. Kevin Durant's one of the 2 or 3 best closers in the game. They got the closer thing fine. They need a little bit more of a facilitator who can also score, like a Chris Paul. So Kyrie's not a distributor. He's not a facilitator. The other thing is, I think KD deserves better, but he's trapped because Ben Simmons, nobody's going to want him, and Kyrie, not many are going to want him. And, you can, in Brooklyn now, you can keep doing this. You can keep pointing fingers at Steve Nash. Will that solve it? You can keep saying, Ben Simmons, he's going to come out of this abyss and change everything. Do you believe it? Do you think Kyrie is going to become now emotionally dependable and physically more durable? We know what Ben Simmons is. This is not like somebody that inspects a house you're going to buy and misses a leaky roof. Like, we know what Ben Simmons is. Kyrie's been in the league 11 years. We know the game. He's not emotionally dependable or physically durable. Kevin Durant, and I've said this about LeBron, at this point in Kevin's career, he needs emotionally and physically dependable people. He's got neither. It's like LeBron. Everybody's like, oh, LeBron's this, LeBron's like. LeBron does not need Kawhi or AD. At this point, he needs Anthony Edwards. He's not going to get him. He needs a guy that's going to play Jokic 74 games. Be there every night and rest for the playoffs, and then here you go. And guys that, in LeBron's case, that can play off the ball because he needs the ball. That's the offense with LeBron. It will be to the day he retires. He's going to have the ball in his hands. A great ball handler. He's a mismatch for anybody trying to defend him at the top of the circle. So, my point is, Kevin Durant already made a really bad decision to end up in Brooklyn. Like, we all know that. That's not arguable anymore. Now what do? If I'm Kevin Durant, I go to the organization, and I'm not sure if Kevin Durant has this in him, but I go to the organization and I say, trade Kyrie. Let's cross our fingers with Simmons. If he defends and distributes, I would just tell the organization, I'll make calls. I'll go recruit players to play. I mean, guys want to play with Kevin Durant. I want to play with Kevin Durant. He's like a star, but he's not a terribly selfish star. He defends. A lot of these stars don't defend. Kevin Durant's a willing defender. He's a willing passer. He's a good guy. So when you make a huge mistake in life and you get trapped, what you generally have to do to get out of it is take control of it and make really, really hard phone calls and make really, really hard decisions. Go talk to your boss. Go talk to your agent. Go talk to the president. I screwed up. I got to make this work. We've got to make tough decisions. You can't finesse your way out of this stuff. Kevin's got